attempt to be cool, we all climbed up. The stairs are at the ends for next time if we want to do it more conveniently. Thank you for having us, everyone. My name is Ornit Chinar, and I run venture investing for Citi in Israel. And I have with me a number of companies, fintechs, banks, financial institutions. I don't know whether to define Tomer as a startup or a VC, so we'll take him with both his hats. For convenience for this topic, I think that's very, very relevant. And maybe 2 words about what we do. So SMBs are, of course, a very hot topic. Specifically for Citi in Israel, we're investors in Bluevine, and we're looking at this space with great interest. We think that there's still a lot of potential. We'll talk about it in a second. Can you guys introduce yourselves?
Hi, Rory from the Visa Ventures and Partnership team based in Tel Aviv. Thanks for the invitation, Ronit.
Hi, Yael Weisbord. I lead innovation and fintech at Discount Bank.
Tomer Michaeli, general partner at Viola FinTech Fund.
And Bat Enosh, strategy and innovation at Intuit.
So perhaps we could start by talking about each one of your strategies in this space, what you're doing with SMBs.
Me to start? Okay. So, we are investors, investing in sort of like cross-stage A and North companies. SMBs, have very, soft space in my heart, warm place. The company that I founded before joining the VC, Fundbox, was actually serving SMBs because we recognized the fact that SMBs are hugely underserved market in literally every aspect of financial services. We chose to tackle the credit space, but we believe it's still true in many other aspects as well. And this also continues to be part of our strategy as the Viola FinTech Fund. We are very bullish on companies that are trying to serve SMBs in terms of financial services, credit, payment, insurance, saving, wealth management. So this is sort of like our take on SMBs.
I think that in recent years, the entire Israeli market, the banking market, have understood the importance of SMBs to the growth of the economy. And as such, SMBs are a very, very important segment. And we have defined a clear strategy of how to grow, to help those companies to grow. I think that one insight that we had that really helped us shape our strategy is the understanding that SMBs have very different challenges than any other business. Being more of a one-man show or a one-woman show, and that this one person has to deal with so many stuff that are not related to the real job that they need to do. An SMB is the CEO and is a marketing guy and is a finance guy, and he deals with banking and deals with the administration and deals with all so many kind of stuff that makes his or her life very difficult. And what we are trying to do is providing tools and services that will reduce the amount of time that those people are spending on things that are not related to their work, and try to bring them tools that will help them enhance and grow their business. So this is in a nutshell, and give some examples.
So you mentioned bullish. Yeah, Visa is bullish on SMBs and B2B in general. It represents a $20 trillion opportunity for us. Just a reminder for the audience, Visa does not work directly with SMBs nor consumers. Our basic business model is a four-party model where we make our products and services available through our network of issuers and acquirers, right? And historically, that's exactly what we've been doing in this space, working with partners such as Stripe, Square, to make merchant onboarding secure and easy. Lately, we've been doubling down on product development, right? So virtual issuance is one particular example where we'll give a business an easy and digital means to pay a supplier. A second example would be empowering businesses to enable their employees to pay on behalf of the business. So think about a bakery with a new employee. They're not quite as comfortable with giving them a card. Through our token service and Visa transaction control, we can give the baker owner the opportunity to set limits for daily transactions, merchant category, days of the week that the card is activated, and all this in real time. So these are two examples of stuff that we're currently doing in this space.
So Intuit's it's a company that's been around for 35 years. Our mission today is powering prosperity around the world. And from our very early years, we've been dedicated to working with small businesses and figuring out their financial needs. We see ourselves as sort of the big giant that helps the little guy, especially in the part where they really don't want to spend a lot of their energy. It's around their accounting and their taxes. And over time, we've actually grown from small businesses to even the market of freelancers, which we see as a huge up-and-coming change in the financial sphere, both in the U.S. and globally. And I'll just share an anecdote, because we also provide software for these small businesses. We have a platform that allows them to connect with different services and get everything that they need to run their business so they can focus on their craft. But I'll share kind of a cute story from our company to show the dedication of how much we breathe and dream and think about small businesses at any moment in time. There was a point in time where our marketing department said we wanted to have an ad for the Super Bowl. And as you know, it's an expensive ad. I don't know, was it $4 million for 30 seconds or something? And at the end, the company decided that actually the people who should get the ad should be the small businesses. And instead of running an Intuit ad, we ended up having some sort of a selection process to find the right business. And we ran an ad for a small business. And it was the first ad that a small business could actually have on the Super Bowl. They rarely can afford this type of marketing. And there's additional stuff we do. We actually, a lot of the small businesses go on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, but they don't reach their milestone in order to get the fundraising, and we match them. So we try to actually complete it. So there's a lot. We really do feel that the small businesses are the growth engine of the economy, and there's an entire company behind them that is dedicated to help them out.
So you took the words out of my mouth. I read a statistic recently that the gig economy is going to be about 40% of the people. So look to the left, look to the right. Almost half the people here are going to be self-employed in the foreseeable future. And I don't know if self-employed is really self-employed or 100% employed by a company that doesn't really employ them. But either way, they're going to have to deal with things that they don't currently deal with. And they're part of those SMBs we're talking about. But so is a company with 100 people and 10 million in ARR. They're also an SMB. So do you think that there's a specific use case or a specific need of the SMBs, or are they too disparate to have everything taken care of? And within that complex, do you think that we've already resolved all the needs of the SMBs with, and Tomer, I'm looking at you, Israel is a hotbed for innovation in this space. So we have, of course, as we mentioned, Bluevine and Fundbox, but also Behalf and EasyBob, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a number of others. Lending Express, that's right. So do you think there's more to be done? Do you think they're so disparate that there are so many more needs that we haven't resolved yet?
So regarding your first question, I think that one of the key challenges of why, let's start with why SMBs were so underserved, because they're notoriously unprofitable for financial services, and the reason they're so unprofitable is the fact that they're so different from each other. So building a one product fits all is literally impossible, and therefore you need to build for each of the sectors that to start with are difficult to acquire because they're so different and have lower ability to pay. And on top of that, to create different products, and you have something that is, with the exception of what's happening today with, cloud that enables you to scale very dramatically, and with SaaS that enables you to provide very different services to different clients, you get, something that is extremely difficult to build, something that is a business that is profitable. So I believe that this will continue being a huge challenge. And there will not be, one silver bullet, not in terms of product, not in terms of marketing strategy, pricing, literally on every dimension of FinTech operation, product, startup, and so on. Now, with regard to your question about, SMB lenders that are, popular in Israel, and I believe that the reason they are so, there you see so many Israeli companies is because they are, relying on that very robust, all of them are relying on robust foundations of, digital marketing, underwriting, which is big on data, big on analytics, big on AI, all the things that are, people are traditionally strong here. So I believe that, that will continue to be very strong trend here in Israel and worldwide in general. Plus, I think that the added benefit of every Israeli startup that is thinking from day one globally. So where you see a lot of local solutions, I think that Israelis are more, many times are more nimble and thinking more internationally, so have better chances of creating category leaders on these markets.
I want to disagree with Tomer. I think there's, let's make it interesting. I think there's not enough Israeli startups that target this segment, and for the reasons that you mentioned. I mean, SMBs have been getting bad reputation historically, which, but also I think it's a matter of the Israeli entrepreneur DNA. We know how to sell to big organizations. We're really good at that, so we steer away from consumers, SMBs. It's a matter of distribution. It's a matter of also, I think it quite in a lot of the cases it requires a deeper market understanding, which is harder from Israel remotely. But the startups that do get it right, I think there's a blue ocean opportunity. I mean, look at Pioneer and Tipalti, which serve SMB mid-market, kind of. These are probably top 2 out of the top 5 Israeli fintechs to come out of Israel in the past decade. So I think definitely there's more opportunity.
So one of the articles I read recently was talking about a new space that I haven't seen in Israel yet, but hopefully one of you is already doing it, in the T&E space. So travel and entertainment apparently is the latest in the fashionable trends for solutions for SMBs, just like with the, accounting, et cetera, it's easier to take care of large corporates than it is SMBs, and therefore they were ignored until now. And apparently a lot of startups are appearing in this space. Can you think of other areas where you would want to see innovation or expect to see innovation?
So twofold. First, to what you guys were talking about, I think the SMB market is still super underserved. I mean, at the end of the day, a small business today still deals with something between 4 to 10 apps a day to run their business. A lot of it is done manually. They don't do what they really wanted to, they don't do what they started their business for. They end up having a lot of overhead, and there's a lot of room for automation and for digitizing a lot of what they currently do. In particular, the reason, for example, we're starting to look at the freelancers market is because it's an interesting market. It's in between that boundary of a consumer and a business, right? So a self-employed or a freelancer still manages their finances as an individual in terms of taxation, in terms of their expenses, in terms of how they run stuff. But the reality is they are managing a business, and it might even grow. And both being able to help them with identifying what are personal expenses and what are business expenses and what are personal car trips and what are business car trips, and then feeding all that into their taxation. And then later, as they grow, how do they take all that and create a business out of that? I think there's lots of room for innovation there. It's a really untapped market. If you think of it, it's also becoming one of the first super global markets. I mean, if I'm an Amazon seller and I'm selling on different platforms and I'm selling to someone in Korea and I need to understand, you know, what kind of taxes to pay there, and is it, can I claim it, can I not? This is the world that we live in, and I think there's room for innovation there for many, many more. And so we like to think of it both as, you know, a way for us to expand in an open platform and also places for us to expand.
Yael, maybe you can say a few words about the local SMB market size, what's going on here.
Yeah, I think that I was surprised, you know, looking, prepared for this panel, I was looking for some information about this market, and I was surprised to see numbers that the SMB's market in Israel is estimated at almost 500,000 businesses, which, relating to your previous question, of course, it's a huge market, and there are so many sub-segments in such a wide number of customers. They account for 96% of the businesses in Israel, and they contribute about 33% of the GDP. So it's really huge. It's going to grow. It's going to keep on growing, and it relates to all kind of issue of social trends, technology that enables more and more remote work, changes in economy, global economy. So I think it's here to stay, and it's only growing. And I totally agree with everything that was said here about how this market has been underserved, and still there's so many unmet needs. What we have been working in the past year at our bank is to try and provide the best financial tools, digital tools for our SMB clients. We've just we're in the process of a rollout of a new both application and a website for SMBs, and the whole design thinking about that was to make it very adaptable to all kind of different segments in the market, that everyone can pick up the services that they want and customize the website in the way that would help them make the processes much more automated, and work in a very, very intuitive way that the bank will work for them and not the other way around.
So I would like to make two short comments. One, I'm not surprised with the size of the SMBs. I think they're actually more dramatic than the GDP is their contribution to GDP growth. Actually, I think it is much more dramatic. I think that probably, you know, they contribute probably to 60% of the GDP growth, even though they're 30%. That's one comment. The other comment is in terms of like areas where there's opportunity. The way I think about it is the most scarce resource for an SMB owner, like many people said here, it's time. They just don't have time. So any idea to dramatically save time on things that, you know, especially things they must do like accounting because it's the law, you know, that's where, you know, huge opportunities still are. And you know, since these guys are, as maybe many people said here, they're doing the hiring, they're doing the training, they're doing the, you know, the compliance, the marketing, everything. So, you know, you think about, you know, why do they take, you know, an SMB loan that is so expensive? Because it saves them, you know, time that, you know, they otherwise have to go in, you know, to the bank and, you know, or whatever, fill out forms, just wait to get an answer, which is 70% of the time is no. So anywhere you'll see, you know, an opportunity to save time, this is where there's huge opportunity for SMBs.
So I have to say, you raised the issue that they're paying very high fees to save time in some cases. So clearly new technology has enabled us to offer underwriting on the go and enable them to get loans much faster, not necessarily much cheaper. Some cases, I'd even say that one might mention words like loan sharking. Would any one of you want to comment on whether the technology has brought innovation or has brought the opportunity to make more money?
Again, I'm just, I think that it's a very one-sided view of the situation. Again, a huge part
I'm
of
on the bank side.
No, I know. A huge part of the customers of these loans were not able to get, either not to get a loan at all or to get, you know, a much lower amount that they would actually need. And again, you don't account to the increased, the much higher risk of this loan that should be embedded into the price, as well as the huge time saved. So again, all in all, I'm pretty sure that it creates much more efficiency and liquidity into what used to be, still is, largely a hugely inefficient market. So I believe this is innovation and not loan sharking.
I want to comment on that as well, because I don't know how many of you are familiar with Intuit. We have an open platform, and Fundbox is a partner, and Bluevine is a partner, and Behalf is a partner, or working on becoming a partner, and Lending Express is a partner. And we have our own solution called QB Capital, and we also offer loans. And the reality is, that there is a broad market, and anyone can, there's enough for everyone. There's such a need for capital in these businesses, and actually immediate liquidity, that there's room for everyone. But by allowing everyone to play, I think down the road, we will create better offerings that actually match we're going through this phase now where, like Tomer is saying, from 70% not even asking for loans, and another 70% of those who did go ask for loans get rejected. So from almost zero ability to get a loan for your small business to having the data that allows others to take risk on these small businesses, we're going through this transitions, and I'm assuming that by having multiple offerings, we will see probably even lower rates.
It was tongue-in-cheek. I agree with both of you. Go ahead.
Just a short comment. I think that the loan sharking thing is the reputation. You can't argue with the numbers. Businesses go get credit if they can't be served with other resources. My comment that I want to add is that I think that the macroeconomics ecosystem that enabled alternative lenders, because they lend from the banks, right? So the macroeconomics in the past 10 years were ideal, right? Because global interest rates since the 2008 financial crisis are at an all-time low. The true test will be what happens when these global interest rates go up. Will API pricing for businesses will go up? Will businesses still take that alternative lending? I think the flip side of that is we're seeing more and more alternative lender as in a SaaS model. These players are licensing the platforms to banks, and that creates a bigger funding pool for businesses and a lower APR possibly.
So you brought it, I let you go in before my question, but now it ties in nicely. I was going to ask a question regarding where you think all of this technology is going to flow to, because SMBs is great, and we've learned how to underwrite on the fly and alternative types of credit. Do you think it's going to stay in the SMB market, or do you think we're going to start applying it to corporations, to individuals, and so on?
I think that, and we see it also already in banking today, that banks are doing whatever they can to improve their credit underwriting models based on technology, based on more available data, improve the process of taking a loan. I think that one of the, and Tomer mentioned it from the side of time management, but the ability of a consumer, of a corporate, of an SMB to go to get a loan in an immediate process. I think that this was one of the most appealing things of all those companies that were mentioned before. And we're already there as banks in terms of consumer. You can get on your website and get a loan immediately. It's very far still in corporate. There is still a long way to go until we're going to be in corporate. And in SMBs, we're kind of getting closer.
So we have 1 minute left, and I cannot be on a panel where we mention AI and the other word is not mentioned. So can you imagine a world where the new fintechs that are offering all these lending opportunities based on AI are the old players, and the newcomers are the ICOs? So with my little AMPM, I'm going to be able to go and get a token that I'm going to get money from my neighbors who want to buy fruits and vegetables for me, or instead of going to a VC. I'm going to go and do an ICO and get money, or going to a bank and not take a loan and go just do an ICO. Can you imagine that ousting the existing systems in the foreseeable future?
Well, I'm not sure that's the right model for, to start a mom and pop shop. I mean, probably asking into it to match whatever you try to raise on crowdfunding is a better way. I mean, that market is efficient enough. I mean, where ICOs are trying to come in is really to increase efficiency of markets that are really suffering from a lot of manual, processes, inefficiencies, regulation, and so on. So I try, I'm still, have a lot of questions and skepticism about ICOs, although again, they have some interesting features, but again, I would try to keep it focused right now on the, VC side or VC competitor side, and not on the mom and pop shop side.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for the participating.